I have something that I do with my staff every single week called a game tape review. So essentially, we take turns bringing a recorded call. Might be a sales call, client call, whatever. And we all just sit there and watch it back together and then give each other notes. And I know some of you probably just felt your soul leave your body when you heard that, because when you first start out, hearing yourself speak or watching your facial expressions or seeing all the weird little things you do with your mouth and your hands and your posture, and it's all captured in the most aggressive 4K and then analyzed by a group of people specifically looking for ways that you can improve, it is a special kind of torture, right? And I get it. I've been doing this for years, and there are still moments where I want to gently lower my forehead through my desk and hope that it knocks me unconscious so that I don't have to experience this anymore. I have presented to rooms of hundreds of people before, and I still find game tapes worse because, like, when you're live on stage, you can adjust, you can respond, you can move. But on a game tape, you can do nothing. You just sit there and you marinate in your own awkwardness. But here's the thing. Game tapes made me tough. They made my team tough. They make us better, which is probably why I'm actually never going to stop doing them. And the reason I'm telling you this is because when people first start out on camera, on like specifically talking about a Zoom camera, like sales calls, client meetings, content creation, whatever it is, they all tend to struggle with the same handful of things, right? The same nervous habits, the same overthinking, the same, like, I don't look natural spiral. So what we're going to do, let's pretend that you just sent me your latest recording and you have nervously attached the Loom recording. You've said, Amy, please be gentle. And I have laughed and laughed and laughed in your face and said, sure, I'll definitely be gentle. And now I'm going to give you the exact feedback that I give my team when they want to be more confident and more powerful on camera. My name is Amy Wallin. I'm the CEO of Linked VA and the host of the Virtual CEO, which you are currently watching/listening to. Let's dive into the 5 things that you need to know to be more confident on Zoom calls. Before we get into the tactical stuff, I want to say something about why people completely fall off a cliff the second a camera turns on. Because, like, most of you are not awkward in real life, right? You can hold a conversation, you can tell a story, you know how to make a joke. But then the second that little red recording light appears, your personality just packs its bags and leaves the country. Why is that? Part of it is, like, there's a record, there's evidence. If you are like a millennial or if you're younger, we grew up being told, be careful what you put on the internet, right? We have watched people get dragged for one wrong word. We have seen screenshots resurface years later. So your brain automatically goes, this is permanent, this can be replayed, this can be judged. And that alone is enough to spike your nervous system. But there are also, there's like a few other things happening too. The second one is you have delayed feedback, right? In real life, you get immediate cues. Someone's going to smile at you, someone's going to nod, someone's going to laugh, and you just kind of adjust naturally when you're speaking to people. But on camera, especially on Zoom, half the time everyone's on mute, the cameras are off, so you're kind of presenting to blank squares, and it feels like you're talking into a void, right? And your brain interprets that as rejection. And the third thing is self-surveillance, right? When you're on camera, you can see yourself, which means that you're not just speaking, you're watching yourself speak. You're monitoring your face, your posture, your hair, your double chin. And these split second, your attention goes, you're going to lose the flow. You're no longer communicating, you're performing and critiquing yourself simultaneously. And the fourth thing is, like, perceived authority. When you know that something is being recorded, your brain upgrades the stakes, right? This has to be good. This has to be professional. I can't mess this up. So instead of being natural, you become really careful, and careful looks stiff and stiff looks awkward. And then you just start to spiral from there. And the things that people think make them bad on camera are almost never actually what makes them hard to watch. It's not when you stumble on a word. It's not when you're pausing to think, or it's not when you're saying occasionally. It's the awkward tension, right? It's the slightly unnatural, overly controlled, hyper-aware version of yourself that shows up when you're trying not to be judged. But no one is analyzing you as much as you are analyzing you. Most people are too worried about themselves to dissect your awkward blinking pattern or whatever. So before we fix how you look on camera, you need to understand this. The camera didn't make you awkward. It just made you self-conscious, and that is fixable. So let's get tactical. Tactical. I wanna get. Number one thing you can do to appear more confident on camera, you can look better, right? And this should not be offensive to hear. You're going to feel better when you look better. And like there's the obvious shit, right? Like wear something professional, brush your hair, wash your face, like whatever it is you need to do to make yourself pleasing to look at. But it's not about looking like a model, right? It's about looking like a human being and as close to having them in the room with you as you can. So, first thing, lighting is everything, right? Natural light directly on your face is elite. So sit facing a window, not with a window behind you. And if you have to fake it, like I do, 2 lights at 45 degrees in front of your face, that's going to do the trick. Overhead lighting, it's going to make you look tired and it's going to carve like weird shadows into your face. Backlighting is going to make you look like a serial killer. So don't be doing that unless, you're on a call with Netflix auditioning for a serial killer role. But not ideal for a sales call or an interview or a client call or whatever. Camera height matters as well. So the lens should be parallel to your eyes, not looking up your nostrils, not cutting off half your forehead, right? I should be able to see your whole face clearly. Like if I'm staring at a ceiling fan while you're pitching me something, we have a problem. And then there's your background, right? You don't need some fancy marble office and a bookshelf curated by an interior stylist, but it just needs to be clean and not distracting, right? The cleaner the background, the less visual noise people have to get distracted by. I had this one client who used a background that it was like one of those hypnotic patterns that looked like it was moving, and I literally got off the call seasick. Certainly not hypnotized. So if you don't have a clear, clean background, just use a Zoom background, just something neutral, something tidy. I once jumped on this call with a guy who wanted my business, and behind him was this really overstuffed bookshelf of books that were all at least 50 years old. They were all yellowing with like papers and shit exploding everywhere. And I don't know what he wanted me to think, but I certainly wasn't thinking, oh, he's been reading books for 50 years. He must be so smart. I thought, this man is operating out of a storage room because he is a hoarder. And my brain went, if that's what's behind you, what does the rest of your business look like? I don't trust you. If you appear like someone who has their shit together, you will feel better. You will feel more confident about what you are doing there, which means you're going to perform better if you know that people aren't judging you for your visuals, right? It's just math or psychology, I guess. The second thing to looking/being more confident on camera is don't check out. And I don't just mean, have your camera on, which yes, have your camera on. That's a basic. But I mean, stop typing while someone else is talking. Stop multitasking. If you are in a meeting, it's because it's important. And if it's not important, by the way, get the out of that meeting and make it an email. But if you have dedicated your important time to a meeting, treat it like it's important. Because when you half listen and you start doing other work, not only is it incredibly offensive to the other people, you don't come across as confident, right? It's antisocial and it just immediately creates distance between you and the person. And you actually just look scattered, right? There is nothing confident about someone who can't sit still and pay attention to someone for 30 minutes. If you want your audience to feel your confidence, you need to give them your focus, which means when they are talking, your body should stay relatively still. And I mean, like gesture when you talk, that's fine. But don't be moving shit around on your desk or shuffling notes or typing or answering phone calls. Honestly, there's always someone answering a phone call mid-Zoom meeting. But someone who is steady and stable and observant, they feel safe. Someone who is jittery and typing and glancing off screen constantly, that feels unreliable. And especially on a sales call, if I'm about to give you my money and you can't even give me your attention, I'm out. Tip number 3, if you can't read a script naturally, don't read a script. I remember once I was hiring a guy who just dropped a couple $1,000s on some high-ticket sales training from a guru somewhere on the internet, I don't know. But my God, he sounded like he'd swallowed the workbook whole. And every single sentence, it felt rehearsed. Every question felt like it had just been like laminated and handed to him that morning. You could hear him reaching for the next line in the script. And it was so unnatural. It just made me physically uncomfortable listening to him. And when someone doesn't sound like themselves your brain clocks it immediately. It's like uncanny valley territory. It's just not quite human, not quite robot, just off. The same thing when I was watching this recruitment interview once, where the interviewer, it sounded like she was auditioning for like a Miss America pageant. She was like, if you were given the opportunity to work here for 5 years, where would you see your career going? And I was like, like half waiting for her to pivot and wave and thank the academy or some shit. Be a human being, right? It honestly sounds so much better to hear someone stumble over a word or make a mistake or correct themselves or, have a silence that's a little bit too long than it does to listen to some polished, creepy robot person. You want to know why so many people trust someone like Donald Trump? It's because he is so clearly not reading a script. Because people feel like they're getting the unpolished truth, even though he can't stay on topic or he says outlandish shit and he laughs at his own jokes or whatever. But if he came out and read a script of perfect words, he'd probably lose 80% of his following. So be natural. Speak like you would speak to a friend. Right? I don't care how far up the corporate ladder you're climbing. Confidence is not sounding polished. It's sounding sounding comfortable in your own skin, right? Now don't twist this. I love a script. I love a process. I love a structure. But if you cannot deliver it without sounding like you are reading off a cue card, then put it in the bin. And if you don't know how to sound natural yet, you're going to love tip number 4. Tip number 4 is practice, right? And I know you hate this one. I know you were really hoping you could watch a 15-minute YouTube video or, listen to a podcast like this and walk away magically confident on camera. But I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way, right? Information is cute. Implementation is painful. And this is why not everyone is good on camera, no matter how much content they consume. Because the actual improvement doesn't come from just understanding what to do. It comes from doing it when it feels awkward. It comes from practice, right? You don't walk into a gym on day 1 and bench 100 kegs, right? You struggle your way through 20 over and over. You build up strength, you build coordination, you build muscle memory, right? It's the same thing here. And I don't mean go and watch 1,000 hours of Tony Robbins and hope that you absorb his cadence through osmosis. Even if you could parrot him perfectly, you're still not him. And it would still feel off. It would still feel performative. And you don't get confident by copying someone else's confidence. You get confident by surviving your own discomfort repeatedly. So record yourself, watch it back, cringe, take notes, do it again. Get feedback, get the brutal kind of feedback, right? The kind that makes you want to close your laptop and move away to a farm, right? And then you do it again. The people who are good on camera are not magically gifted. They're just less sensitive to sucking, and you're going to suck. And if you want to not suck, you have to earn it. It's reps over ego every single time. Tip number 5. If you can't care what people think of you to a degree, right? This is not a license to be an asshole. You should care. We live in a society. That's how this works. What I mean is when you jump onto a Zoom call acting like their approval determines your worth, your confidence is going to disappear immediately. You're going to start cushioning everything. You're going to start softening your tone and over-explaining and agreeing when you don't actually agree. And you become like overly polite in this desperate, like slightly frantic way. And you think you're being strategic, but what you're actually signaling is that you really need them. And confidence dies the second that you need someone to validate you. I have had sales calls where I have challenged a person so directly that I've thought, well, there goes that deal. And those are the ones who end up buying, right? If someone says to me, great example, Filipino staff are unreliable, I don't panic and start sweet talking them. I don't start cushioning it with fluff, right? I'll say calmly, well, all people can be unreliable. And if your recruitment process is weak, you're going to experience it more, right? It's not a nationality problem. That's a standards problem. Right? I'm not being emotional about it. I'm not sucking up. I'm just giving them facts. And the respect shifts instantly. If I cared more about being liked than being clear, I'd probably start backpedaling. I'd say, oh, yes, I'd understand why you think that. And suddenly I'm small again, right? I knew this guy who was socially awkward and tried to make friends by agreeing with everything. Like the second someone disagreed with him, he'd flip his opinion mid-conversation, and watching it made you so uncomfortable. Honestly, watching a human being without a backbone is always uncomfortable. Confidence is being able to disagree without shaking, right? It's knowing why you're in the room. It's understanding that if someone doesn't like you because you are calm and direct, that's fine. You don't need everyone to approve of you. You need them to respect you. And a lot of you will still act like you have a boss who's going to yell at you for telling the customer off. If you're listening to this podcast, you're the boss now, right? And the customer is probably wrong. And you can tell them that and potentially lose the sale, or you can fold and definitely lose the sale. When you are confident on camera, on calls, in meetings, people relax around you. They stop trying to figure out whether you're competent and they actually listen to what you're saying. And it is not because you dazzled anyone, right? It's because you removed doubt. The people that I trust the most are rarely the sparkly ones in the room. They're just the steady ones, the sure ones, tend to be slow speakers. And when you hesitate and over-explain and you shrink and you perform, people subconsciously assume that there's something to hesitate about. But when you're steady and clear and unbothered by, minor imperfections, they assume you know what you're doing. And in business, perception compounds, right? You don't get more confident because you succeed. You succeed because you learned how to carry yourself maybe before you felt ready. So optimize your setup. Be present. Speak like a human. Do the reps. Stop worshipping other people's opinions. And just remember, you don't need to be flawless. That's it for today. If this helped even a little bit, give the virtual CEO 5 stars or send this to someone else who needs to stop hiding behind, I'm just not good on camera. And I shall see you next week.